If the Brewmaster can play to his advantage, keep that gyrocopter in the air, team fights are going to be untenable for Hokori. If they don't have this gyrocopter, he's that important. And I think the side gunner does still fire while you're in the cyclone, but it is going to put them in that team fight situation where once the gyrocopter has his BKB, those team fights are going to have to occur within that BKB, or else you're going to get kited very heavily. You're going to get put in a situation where you're going to lack the damage. And that's why I love this Kunkka pick, because now a lineup that has to play around this BKB has to play around this 10 to 11-second period of team fights where maybe they can burst someone, pop BKB, continue the fight going. Now you have that ghost ship that's going to give you that little bit more sustainability along with playing with the Wyvern. And I think I really like what Four Zoomers are sort of putting down here. They're kind of saying, we're going to kite you out. We see your burst. We know how instant you are. But if you stick around too long, now the fights are going to start turning in our favor. And we saw it exactly play out in that previous game with Undying, where if you get enough time on this Luna, she is going to feel like the best hero in Dota. It's just going to happen. It's just sort of the fact of the hero at this point.
Yeah, and that was the concern for No Ping in both of the games, actually. The last time around as well, we talked about how they can go in, they've got burst, they've got some setup, but they need to take the fight quickly, otherwise things are going to go bad for them in both game 1 and game 2. It felt like they sort of missed their timing and let opportunities slip through their fingers. So now Hokori, in a very similar position. They still maybe have a little bit more room to sort of maybe wiggle their way out of that exact scenario compared to what No Ping were in, but you have those similar concerns. What do they do if they don't get the burst down quickly enough? Do they have the means to take a prolonged fight, and do they have the means to prolong the game in general? As you said, the longer it goes on, the stronger and stronger the Luna's going to get, and your Gyro can certainly put up a pretty substantial fight, but you don't know if that's going to be enough when you really get down to critical mass on those carries.
And that's where I can only imagine we saw the Death Prophet and the Batrider band out. If Analog can be on that Ember Spirit that we've seen him so successful with, I feel like that's the exact type of hero they need. They need a hero that's going to, again, capitalize on the amount of damage they have coming from their backline, but is also going to give you that little bit of lockdown, because right now they are completely single target. While the Bushwhack is a fantastic spell, I don't think it's going to be enough. As well as Hikori, last two bans, right on the money. They know that they need a hero for Z-Freak in this game. He's going to get pushed aside to, again, sort of off the super duper meta heroes. But I think now Hikori, their main focus need to be, are we going to pick up the puck? Are we going to pick up the Ember Spirit? What hero can we really sort of get Analog on that's going to really prop up our damage? Because again, their damage is fantastic. If they can keep on these heroes, if they don't get BKBs off, if they don't get Aeon Discs, that's going to be the real timing that Hikori cannot play around. If four Zoomers are able to get an Aeon Disc on this Brewmaster, I genuinely don't think they can win anymore. That is how important it is for Hikori to not play towards that sort of 45, 55-minute mark where those luxury items come out on the supports and the offlaners, because nobody wants to build a nullifier on the Hikori side. I don't think any mid laner they could pick here wants to build a nullifier. And once those items get on the board, that's where Hikori, it's a guaranteed stall out, where they are going to run out of gas in the tank. They are going to get kited around. And again, I love this Legion Commander. You're getting more healing. Again, versus AA, it's a little bit risky because every single duel that goes down, you do have to be worried about getting AA blasted, getting turned upon. You don't have that extra healing to sort of count on to get you boosted up in those fights. But once you get that shard, you have that BKB, you have that secondary BKB, you have another form of getting out. And if they play it right, it's going to be a situation now where you don't need to worry about the Gyrocopter missile nearly as much, because you always have that instant purge. It might even just be played almost like an Abaddon. And we'll have to see how they decide to sort of lane it up, because it feels a little bit strange. Maybe we'll see the 5 Brewmaster. Maybe we'll see, it'll probably be the 5 Brewmaster, the 4 Winter Wyvern, because again, Lucent Beam, you proc the Cinder Brew, you make it a really hard, difficult lane for this DK, and if it's going to be a DK Hoodwinked lane, we've already saw the Tide Hoodwink, you can definitely get a little bit annoying, but you're playing with a double ranged lane versus a melee offlaner, you're going to eat a lot of harass. And I like that they're going for the Ember Spirit. I like Analog on this hero, and he's got a good matchup, but you can't help but feel like for Zoomers, if this game goes to that 40-minute mark, they've got a really safe win sort of trajectory. They've got a really good win condition this game.
Mm-hmm. Feels like Hokori, they just got to go kind of early. The Ember Spirit is a nice hero in that regard to maybe push the tempo. If Vitaly can get that Blink Dagger up in a pretty, even just kind of decent timing as well, then you are going to have an opening there. Maybe you can put 4 Zoomers on the back foot, really sort of cut into how much farming time Eternal Envy is going to get, but that is going to be reliant on them putting together that kind of aggression in maybe the first 10, 15 minutes to 20 minutes, because beyond that point, if you allow Envy to sort of get into that groove and start farming up, that's where the concern starts to set in. So would very much like to see Hokori push the tempo here, try to take advantage of all the bursts that they sort of have at their disposal. If they can put 4 Zoomers on the back foot as early as possible, then I think things look a lot better for them. But the longer it goes on, it's a Luna, right? I mean, we've said it over and over again, that Luna just really eclipses almost everyone, and you don't want to just let it go that far. It sounds so simple when you say it like that, but we'll see if Hokori can actually put it together.
And again, priority will be shifted because they are going to that Legion Commander, so it will be a 5 Brewmaster. But again, I swear, if he's able to get an Aeon Disc on this Brewmaster, it's just going to feel like team fights are no longer capable for Hokori. And that's where I really think they just got to go ham. Analog's got to have a really standout game. If he's able to get some of those early runes, we've seen Spirit snowball games in their team's sort of favor, because he needs to buy time for Vitaly. It's Analog buying time for Vitaly, and then Vitaly buying time for TRS. And if they can make plays on the key targets, the only problem is with the way that 4 Zoomers have drafted, really the best target for them to go on is this Winter Wyvern. Everyone else is just that little bit tankier, kind of strength hero meta, because they're beefy boys. Their melee heroes are not easy kills. They're very difficult kills. And again, if they fall behind in these lanes just a little bit too hard, it's just going to be a very easy sort of lull into that mid game that I'm very concerned with, because again, Luna versus Gyrocopter, it's a battle of the range. Who can walk up to who can have more net worth? If TRS can keep a net worth lead over the Luna, you can sort of ignore the matchup. But here we go, Analog.
He's starting to get hit here. Vitaly has to step in with the Dragon Tail, looking to break it up, and now Husky, okay. Husky, okay. That's a little too far forward for him. Doesn't realize it until it's too late as Tiaras gets first blood, and they might go for a little bit more here. Z-Freak's getting slowed up just that little bit, but at this point they don't want to push that far forward. You just got first blood, no need to get too greedy and potentially give up something, especially considering how low Vitaly was on HP there, so Hokori hold their ground. 4 Zoomers just trying to get up onto that high ground, I guess looking for some early vision. Instead they walk directly into that trap, and initially, it looked like the fight wasn't too bad for them, but Husky is immediately isolated and picked as the target, and they bring him down.
And really, I think that sort of caught them off guard was El Misho's little bit atypical route. He walked in front of four Zoomers heroes, but they were so committed onto the kill on the DK that they really sort of ignored everything. And of course, it's a lot of regen sort of expended on both sides, as well as Mu getting really beat up on that bottom rune just because of the, again, the Gyrocopter Missile. It's one of the best spells, probably needs to be nerfed level 1 because of how obnoxious it is. But as well as that, Eternal Envy expended 2 or 3 Lucent Beams to contest those runes, so he is not going to be sitting pretty with his mana, and nothing on Husky as well. So the Cinderbrew combo, it's going to feel, again, very free. It's very easy for them to get off, but they're going to have just a few less of those than they otherwise would if they didn't go for that early battle. I think it's actually going to sort of affect this lane quite a bit.
Yeah, that is an unintended consequence. They force their way into that fight. Not only do they end up losing first blood, but now it has a knock-on effect on their lane. And Vitaly doesn't have any points up in the blood just yet, but he is going to over the next couple of minutes. So you were sort of hoping that that Lucent Beam Brew combo was going to be enough to sort of keep him at bay, work against that regen to keep Vitaly in a bit of a weaker position. But until Envy gets some further mana, that's really not going to play out in his favor. You do see the stick has been purchased, so that will be on its way relatively soon, but in the meantime, he's getting beat up here. Bushwhacked into the Dragon Tail stun. Envy really is not having a whole lot of fun here. He does have a couple of lasses to work with, and Husky heals him up with a salve, but this was not the duo we thought was going to try to be the more aggressive of the two at sort of the outset.
And if it was going to go this way, then Husky would have much rather have Thunderclap, because again, you can hit 2 heroes with it. It doesn't feel like a waste. Even then, Eternal Envy doesn't feel confident enough to turn around and throw out the Lucent Beam, and if he gets zoned too far off this wave, Of course, it's not going to be the biggest deal. This Luna does have a built-in recovery method, but we don't usually see Luna struggle this much. Whereas, again, if you fall too far behind in this matchup, if you give this DK a little bit too much time, you give him too many levels, the kill just becomes too difficult, and that gives time for Elmisha to play on the water runes, to play on the stacks. And that's exactly what four Zoomers want to either avoid, contest, or stop. And just look at Eternal Envy, just getting completely zoned.
This is
Husky is no options.
ridiculous. Yeah, he's getting pushed off the wave entirely by Almisho. Just not going to let him do much of anything right now. Envy eventually sort of makes his way around those trees, but I I don't think even Hokori necessarily anticipated that the lane would be set up for themselves quite this nicely, but going back to that sort of first blood attempt, it's really just sort of tied a hand behind their backs. You see Husky dropping pretty low, able to pop the stick charges for now, so that will keep him alive, but a little bit more damage could finish him off. But Vitaly, he's kind of low himself. He is sitting on a Fairy Fire, though, so maybe he can bait this one out. He's going to pop that Fairy Fire now. Envy very wisely pulling back, but the Bushwhack locks him down. The Dragon Tail is going to be there as well. Husky's now trying to rejoin this fight. Will he get there in time? No. The Breathe Fire comes through. Envy falls, and now Husky got to be a little bit careful here himself. Vitaly, I don't know if you want that. He's got no HP and no mana, but that was nearly flawless execution. Corey push Envy away, Husky comes in to help, they push him back as well, and all of a sudden you're left in a 2v1 versus a Luna, and Husky could not contribute. He had to fall back to pop that salve.
And I think, again, it's sort of the knock-on effect where they both know how strong this lane should be, and it's that rock-solid mentality where I think Envy is getting baited a little bit. He knows how it should go, and he knows how it should feel, but it's just not going that way because of those little sort of mistakes, those little decisions that are actually having quite a big effect on Envy's lane. And fortunately, they do get this sort of bring back where one hero dies, so he's able to bring all of the regen, a few items out to Envy, so he will be able to sit a little bit nicer. Those sort of deaths, a lot of teams kind of preempt them and sort of plan for them, but it just doesn't feel fantastic. And again, Husky, he makes a rotation to the rune, but doesn't really end up accomplishing anything. And now Envy's in a 1v2 again. Just doesn't feel fantastic for Envy right now.
Yeah, it just feels like almost everything that could have gone wrong in this lane did, so they're not having fun. Neither is Z-Freak down bot. Gardic's able to push it onto him. Tiaras took a hell of a lot of damage, though, and Moo, like he's trying to hit him up here, but yeah, LC, you're not quite strong enough. If the overwhelming odds were coming back up again, maybe he could make a play there, but we're going to be forced to back away, so the Gyrocopter will live, able to sort of pick up an assist there on that fight. Speaking of fights, though, up top, Husky in some trouble, trying to make it away in the tree line. The Acorn shot, though, from Elmisho is in for the kill. Will he die for this, though? Fairy Fire doesn't get popped. Envy hits him up with the Lucent Beam first, so finally something sort of being clawed back for Zoomer's way in this top lane as they're able to find that kill, but even that comes at a cost, right? They have to sacrifice their support, and Envy is still not in a great spot here lasted-wise. He's at least above Vitaly. If he were below the DK, then I think we'd be sort of slamming that panic button, but even with that play to sort of pull it back a little bit, they're still not in the best of positions here in this top lane, and I don't really think Vitaly and Elmisho are going to be letting up on the pressure anytime soon. Just as I say that, the Bushwhack comes in. Dragon Tail's there as well. Envy has to fight his way out of this. He does have 10 wand charges, so he should be okay, but they just keep on just slamming away at this Luna, trying their best to make sure Envy never gets any sort of position where he's comfortable.
And of course, that all comes at the cost of course, Husky getting the pull off, but really it's just sort of pennies at this point. There's been so much invested. You have another salve coming out. Envy just wants as many salves as possible, and it is nighttime, so you do get to pick and choose your fights that little bit easier. But you see, even now, they very simply pull the large camp, and Vitaly, he's just making sure that Envy can't really do anything. And it's very difficult to catch this Luna hero off guard. You even see him going for that second point in Glaives at 5 because it feels like he doesn't want to stay in this top lane in these fights very much longer. He wants to look for those stacks. Stacks that, by the way, do not exist because you have this melee 5 position. He hasn't been able to rotate out of the lane. I like his rotation here to steal the enemy mid laner's bounty rune, but there hasn't really been any recovery set up. There are at least a large camp stack in the triangle that Z-Freak has been able to go for, I think after his first death bottom, but there's just not a lot of aggression coming out from 4 Zoomers right now. I really think they could have gotten away with a little bit more in their lanes, but they were kind of going to a default right now, and it's going to feel okay, but I'm still a little bit scared. And
Mhm.
Gunner is doing a really good job mid, though. He just disabled Analog's regen rune. He's kind of evening out this matchup a lot.
Tries to free fall.
Oh,
Okay, Gunner. Bud,
can't blame a guy for trying.
well, there's confidence and then there's that. That's just a whole different level, but this early on, that cooldown's not going to kill him, but that was very interesting. We'll put it that way. So, Analog pushed out of the lane. He was able to jump back to that Remnant, though, so he's actually back in the lane before the Kunkka is, but Gunner taking advantage of these stacked camps that his team actually set up for him. They may not be stacking for Envy, but at least they were going to work there in the triangle, and that puts the Kunkka in a pretty solid spot. Still behind the Gyrocopter by a couple hundred, but to a certain extent, based on the complete lack of pressure that TRS has been under, that's not exactly unexpected. As Mu gonna get himself hit up down in this bottom lane. He's able to walk outside of the sort of cold feet there. He was holding on to the press the attack anyway. He pops it afterwards, and that is enough to get him out. So he's going to be okay in that situation. I really don't think that they can make that combo work between the time it takes for the cold feet to proc versus the travel time of the missile. One of those two is going to get either outrun or just straight up purged before they can really get in there. So don't know how much kill potential they have, but at least they're trying to sort of keep that pressure on. Speaking of pressure, though, Gardic, well, that's not fun. Gonna get hit up by the Arctic Burn. They get him with the Torrent as well, and Gardic should be taken down here. He tried to go for the deny to the creeps, not going to be able to do so. But while that was happening up top, Analog rotates himself. Both of the mid laners go into work here as Husky was left all alone in that lane. He was just trying to soak up experience while the Luna rotated into the jungle, but paying the price for that one. Hokori will pick him off, and now they have a chance to go after this tower.
Yeah, and that's where you're going to feel the DK. You have the guaranteed push hero. It's a very small commitment, and with how Vitaly's lane has gone, it's going to be a very fast blink dagger. The opposing really strongest member of their team being that Kunkka on the 4Zoomer side. He's been stealing some of their stacks. He's been doing a lot of farming, and that's where we're going to see this Kunkka really slot in as that key hero for 4Zoomers to put pressure on these towers, to find those pickoffs. But it's going to feel like it's kind of hard for him to make these plays because, again, you aren't a Leshrac, you aren't a DK, you're this Kunkka where you're able to get pickoffs, you're able to help your teammates like he is right now, sort of pull them back from the fountain, give them that easy reset, but you're not the fastest pusher. You're giving more time over to the Hokori side, and again, time is going to be the most valuable resource for really both sides, where if Hokori can farm up their items, get those timings a little bit faster where 4Zoomers aren't going to be ready. You see Envy farming some pretty big stacks now, but he's not even level 7. He's going to finally get that last point up in Moonglaze, but this is going to be a slow burn game coming in from Zoomers. We need to get level 6 on our Brewmaster. We need to get a few more levels on pretty much everyone. It's going to be a while before we can really start playing off each other. We even need damage on this Legion Commander because these dual wins are going to be hard-fought victories. They don't have nearly as much burst as Hokori has been able to get with their lineup.
Yeah, and this is always the thing about the LC. You mentioned in the draft you liked it, and there's a good reason for that, right? With the press the attack, you are so strong as a sort of backup defensive option, but the LC not nearly as strong in terms of offensive capabilities with this lineup, and you see right now, Mu is actually just going to get jumped in on mid. The call down will finish him off as TRS gets the kill, and right now, who was there to help him? Gunner could have maybe thrown out a ghost ship, but at that point, I'm not sure the damage deferral would have even been enough with that rum, so right now, 4Zoomers just have to sort of bide their time. It's not where they want to be, but as you mentioned before, Envy, he's working his way through the stacks, but he doesn't even have the Dragon Lance up just yet, so it is going to be slow going. Slow burn was the phrase you used, and that just encapsulates really everything. Envy is not ready. The best option you have right now is probably going to be Gunner, trying to set something up, and X into Torn into Ghost Ship is a decent setup, but he doesn't have the damage right now to do it himself. They need multiple heroes sort of rotating, and we do see that, just not with the Kunkka. It's Mu leading the charge on this one. Without the Blink Dagger, this is going to get a little bit awkward, but we'll see if they can get into position. As Vitaly is going to throw down the Dragon Tail, so not dueled up just yet. TRS is looking to push in here as the duel will be deployed, but Husky did get off the Primal Split. So, Gyrocopter thrown up in the air. Vitaly will be taken down. I don't believe Mu actually got the win, though, and there's going to be the Ice Blast. Analog in as well, looking for the follow-up damage. Mu dropping low. They'll finish him off with the Sleight of Fist. And, well, this is not what 4Zoomers wanted. Husky is going to run out of time on that Primal, but Gunner is in with the Torrent into the Ghost Ship, and they just straight up killed El Misho. There's not a lot that your Hoodwink can do about that one. So El Misho gets taken down. They finished off the DK as well, so at the end of the day, that's a 2-for-2 trade. That's honestly, I think the best you could have hoped for there, outside of maybe getting that kill a half second earlier. They could have had the duel win, but the LC wasn't quite able to get it done in time. But you want to see that kind of aggression. You want to see Zoomers trying to make these fights happen. They need to create more space for Envy. And if they just sort of sit back and play passively, you're giving way too much of the momentum and control over to the Hokori side. They would then get to dictate when and where fights happen. And right now, you really can't afford to allow that, as Analog is actually going to be bottling himself up in Arcane Rune. So this could lead him into some sort of play. Not going to go for it just yet, though. He's falling back at the moment.
And Blink Dagger finished up on the Dragon Knight as well, and this is where they're going to be in full swing. All of their ultimates, the longest cooldown being, of course, that Elder Dragon form, but with the Blink Dagger, they're going to look for a smoke up, and anyone who gets A blasted, sharpshooter, they're just going to straight up die. They see Z-Freak going on sort of a warding mission, but I think they might consider him baiting, but they don't want to make the play here. They want to go mid and connect with the rest of their teammates for sure. If they can get Gunner, they'd be extremely happy. They're kind of running back and forth, rubbernecking just a little bit, trying to decide which route is going to be the best. But as soon as this Hoodwink connects with them, their damage potential is basically all of the enemy team's health pools, especially with Gunner, who's going for a much greedier build. We're not seeing the armlet, and it makes sense. You are playing versus an ancient apparition.
They jumped the Luna.
They found him.
Envy just...
He's so low.
He's just trying his best, man. Low HP. Yeah, he's going after the stack, but...
Farming the stack for a really long time.
Yeah.
I don't know. He's been trying, but it's just not working. I don't think they actually scouted the stack. They will be able to see it a little bit with the ward, but really, if they're able to get this tier 1 tower, it's going to be a little bit greedy to go for the stack.
Oh, they're after Husky, but
okay.
Good play in from Moon. Defensive play comes out. Vitaly gets pulled back into the ghost ship, and at this point, Hokori, I don't know if they really have the means to save him. No, the duel comes out. The Winter's Curse deployed as well. Vitaly... Well, he actually won't give up a duel win that time either. He should obviously be dead. Yeah, they're able to finish him off, but twice now. Mu is able to get in there for the duel, but not able to get the damage, but they're looking for more. They want to push their way forward. They're trying to get onto Elmisho and Analog. They do manage to lock down the Hoodwink, but there's going to be the Ice Blast in onto 3 as Mu gets taken down. Oh, nice Husky. Husky is going to go down, and yeah, this is probably the cue to retreat from Zoomers. Envy, though, he's actually the furthest one back. He's going to get slowed up a bit. Analog... Yeah, he doesn't have the mana to really do this, and at that point you're fighting back onto that tier 1, but Analog's still going. This is very bold on his part, but he knows they have the wrap. El Misho's coming in on the back line. He's going to look for the Bushwhack, but the Eclipse comes out first. Nice Bushwhack, though, from El Misho. Unfortunately, it is going to cost him his own life as he gets hit up by that Tidebreaker, and oh god. Now Analog dead as well. It felt like Hokori were more confident than what actually went down there. El Misho was wrapping around. You have the stun. Analog just needs to get out the last bit of damage, but things kind of fall apart there. That one cleave from the Tidebringer really ruins the entirety of that plan.
Yeah, and Sharpshooter was on cooldown as well. I really think Gunner is just kind of playing out of his mind. He's had some fantastic kills, specifically on El Misho with sort of his Tidebringer playing around those camps. But it sort of boiled down, I think, to Analog overestimating how much mana he had. He did have a Remnant out at the end of the day there. And actually, they're still going. They know that Husky doesn't have...
yeah, the Ice Blast flyover got them that vision. And okay, that's a quick and easy one. Vitaly's able to make it happen. But now, Z-Freak, that's a little dangerous. Elmisho's going to try to track him down here, but no Bushwhack up for just a second or two more. So he wasn't able to commit for it fully. And now Elmisho, this is too far forward. He's going to get hit by the X. There's going to be the Ghost Ship coming out onto him as well, but Envy got caught by Vitaly. Analog right in behind him. So Elmisho really was just a distraction, and it works to perfection. Envy gets taken down. Z-Freak wants a little bit of revenge, though. He'll go in for the curse, and Elmisho will get taken down. But now there's the Ice Blast coming in. It's going to hit up onto Gunner. He is so low on HP, and actually Mu, well, he hit him up with the... Yeah, he hit him up with the press the attack, but it was a little bit... Well, mistimed. Not really sure if it would have saved his life either way, but Gunner gets taken down. Vitaly's going to get the credit for the kill, and Hokori, you go from what felt like an overextension from Elmisho into a fantastic 2-for-1 trade. They get both the carry and the mid laner for very little with the Hoodwink going down.
And really, they even got the D word here on Zoomer's side, so Envy thought he was safe. He was still farming that stack. He's still struggling to kill those Ancients. That's why he got chased all the way up there, because I think he actually stayed for the finish, so they knew exactly where the Luna was. They aim him down, and again, both of these supports can stand so far back on the Hokori side. If there's really no breakdown in their structure, if you're not able to get on that back line, again, there's so much damage coming out from both supports that Zoomers can't really stand up to it. And that's why this build on Gunner, while it is fantastic, while he's the most farmed hero, or was the most farmed farmed hero on the map with this Radiance, it gives you 0 defensive capabilities. You go from what should be the tankiest hero on the map, a pinnacle of strength, to I have a Radiance, and I do a lot of magic damage, and this is fantastic, but you aren't going to be that big, beefy frontliner, especially versus AA. You definitely start to crumble, and without force staffs, without being able to get them sort of out of dodge, they're going to be eating a ton of this magic damage, and we don't see pipes, we don't see hoods, we don't see anyone who can really buy those items easily. And again, it's just kind of Hokori with their little hero advantages that they're definitely playing up their strengths. You even see Tiaras going back for the Dragon Lines. He finished up his Ags, and he hasn't been getting involved in anything. But once he has his BKB, he doesn't need to worry about that Brewmaster lift anymore. And Husky has not gotten a lane. He's not gotten any farm. And if these team fights aren't successful, you see both supports on 4Zoomer side. They are not having a fantastic time. Zfrix's having a little bit of a better time level and farm-wise just because he is the empty lane occupier. He's always able to sort of push out those waves. But Husky is the opposite end of that stick. He's getting nothing.
Zfreak is building a Witchblade. Now,
Yep.
when we've seen Analog, or, well, mostly Analog, but some other players as well, on the core Wyvern, that Witchblade does have a pretty solid effect, and I'm not saying it won't do some damage in this scenario, but you were just mentioning on the 4Zoomer side, we're not seeing the sort of mech, we're not seeing a lot of those defensive items, no pipe. I don't know if the Wyvern builds much of that anyway, but this feels a little greedy out from Zfreak in a situation where 4Zoomers don't really have a whole lot to work with in this scenario. That Witchblade feels good if you're sort of putting it on the top of a whole pile of damage, but right now it just doesn't feel like that's really the case. So we'll see. We could end up talking, 20, 30 minutes from now about how clutch that Witchblade ended up being, but for now, it feels like the itemization is maybe a little bit too greedy on the 4Zoomer side, especially considering your Luna still not battle ready. So you're not going to get too many opportunities for that Witchblade to sort of make an immediate impact.
And I understand why he does it. Been in discussions with him about this before, and I think the mentality is that with max Arctic Burn, with the 50 damage talent, with Witchblade, now you can lop off a good 600 damage during Arctic Burn off some of these carries from a very safe distance. Maybe that is sort of your kiting potential, and again, that is the name of the game for 4Zoomers. If those teamfights can extend a little bit longer... Oh no, Envy, are you getting caught in a creep camp again?
There's the Bushwhack into the Dragon Tail. Ice Blast is coming through. Can they save him? No, they can't. Arctic, or Winter's Curse rather, came out onto Vitaly, but it's just him alone. But reinforcements are coming. Moo could get in there maybe for the duel. Yeah, he's trying to hold off on that blink as he... Oh no.
Unlucky.
That sucks, but at least they get the kill. Vitaly taken down. They throw the Gyrocopter up with the Cyclone, so Tiaras was not in a position to follow that one up, but at least you make it a trade. It's just...
Oh no, Misho?
Can't trade
he
Envy.
went on the other side of the trees.
I don't know if he's making it out of this one. He is going to get hit up quite a bit. That clap is wearing off, though, so the slow no longer applying. Here comes Moo, jumping in, blinking forward. They throw the overwhelming odds out, but Elmisho, he's still not dead yet. He's buying so much time. I mean, eventually, they're going to finish him off there. Yeah, the X is going to pull him back. There's the duel win for Moo. Third time's the charm, as they do manage to get it. So, a duel win's a duel win. You get your damage, you take down both the DK and Elmisho on that Hoodwink, but it's just, it feels like every time, if Envy keeps on going down like this really isn't quite as worthwhile. It's still a benefit in the end, but look at where Envy is right now. He's fourth in terms of the net worth. He is going to actually move up to third with that camp, but he's not significantly ahead of the DK and the Ember or the Hokori lineup, and he's well behind that Gyrocopter. So you mentioned during the draft ET this was going to come down to sort of which of these two heroes could build up those items first in order to just close the gap between themselves and their opponents. It looks like Tiaras really has all the momentum on his side right now.
And now it's just going to be up to Tiaras to maintain that lead. It's really sad seeing the DK in front of the Luna, but it's just sort of how good of a game he's been able to get for himself. And you take a look at the BKB timings. Gyro already has his. The BKB is going to be built up on the Dragon Knight pretty soon here. And at the same time, you're going to have this Eternal Envy BKB in another 4 minutes. And at that point, it's not going to feel fantastic. It's not going to feel great because at that point, you'd hope that Eclipse is going to be the brunt of your damage, because you need to wait for that crit stick, you need to wait for that shard timing, and this is more and more time given to the Hokori lineup, where now they're getting an Aegis for free into their hands, and it just feels like with this AA pick, they've really not built themselves up to have the save they need. There's so much healing on the Forzoomer side, but if they get caught by these initiations, by this sort of slight lockdown on Hokori, and it's not fantastic lockdown aside from that DK stun, but it's just enough. If Vitaly can keep on finding these targets, heroes are just continuing to die. And you even see when they were trying to kill El Misho top, how hesitant Forzoomers are to get stuck in a fight that they don't want to end up going for. And now Tiaras is just going to siege, and Z-Freak, he got hit by the coconut, or by the acorn. This is just a dead tower. There's nothing they can do. They very simply put a remnant top as well, have Analog push off the bottom lane. He does need to be a little bit careful about the X here. Might need to eat a torrent, but aside from that, there's really no split push potential either. Let's see it.
Oh.
Okay, dodged it perfectly. He's showing off. He's showing off a little, but that's exactly what he needs to do, because all the control's in Hokori's side.
Too damn good. You're not going to catch Analog on plays like that all that often. He is very much comfortable and capable on that Ember. So dodges it out. While that happens, BKB finished off by the DK. We do now see a BKB up on the Kunkka as well. So there's some good news for Gunnar, but it just keeps on coming back to what's Envy doing? Where is Envy in terms of his itemization? He's not in a great spot just yet. His own BKB still a ways away, so I don't know how much he wants to get involved here. He does come in for a Lucent Beam at the last second onto Vitaly, just as sort of a middle finger to the DK, but they can't reliably bring that Luna into the fights just yet. Once the BKB is finished off, then we'll see how well that can go. A well-placed Eclipse can really just sort of turn the tide, but they've got to wait a little bit longer.
Yeah, and that's where sort of the complexity of Forzoomer's lineup is, I believe, playing against them, where they have this Legion Commander, he's got 10 duel wins, they don't really have the burst damage to follow up. You even see whenever Mu is trying to go for a duel, it's on the edge of the, pretty much every single duel victory has been with the hero having 200, 300 HP left in the tank. So he can't really rely on his own damage. He has to rely on the damage coming in from his Kunkka, but all of Kunkka's damage takes 2 or 3 seconds to land. It's not a great sort of hero pairing. And again, all of these towers, this is such a fresh Aegis as well.
Look at that.
He
got in there. Good save, though. BKB comes out.
But
Ice Blast is a bit off the mark. But now, there's going to be the curse. Tiaras, though, getting involved, throwing down the call now, and that's a nice bit of damage onto Gunnar. It's going to push everybody back as well. Tier 2 tower does get finished off, but Vitaly doesn't have a lot of HP, but he doesn't care. Jumps in, BKB active, they're going to go on to move, but they don't finish him off in time. The Cold Embrace comes out, now Gunnar wants into the fight. He's holding onto the Ghost Ship, he'll throw it out now, though, as they do drop down the X. Will they have enough damage to finish off Analog? No, he's able to jump away with the Remnant in time, but that means they're on to Tiaras, but they're going to have to bring him down twice. That Gyrocopter with the Aegis in hand is so damn dangerous, and at this point, for Zoomers, they don't really know who they can get on to directly. They need to focus in on one, but they don't really have a good target to isolate. They're trying for Gardic, but while they do that, they do get hit up by, by the stun. That Ice Blast is a little off the mark, but it is still going to push them. Mu.
The shot.
Oh my god. Mu gets sniped out. Husky dead as well. Even Gunnar goes down there as Tiaras. He'll die, but he's coming right back up thanks to that Aegis. Hokori with 3 kills on the absolute edge of their initiation range. And for Zoomers, they're in some serious trouble here. They get Z-Freak now with the Searing Chains, and yeah, that Cold Embrace is not going to save you. Analog picks up the kill, and Hokori, they've got a pretty free path here. Buybacks are basically non-existent. There's 1 on Husky, and that's it.
And you see Eternal Envy, he felt pressured to buy the Aghanim Shard. He felt like he needed just anything, more cooldown, the AoE, just some sort of damage coming out, but it's not synced up with his items at all. He's still working on his BKB, and that was kited out really well from 4 Zoomers, but there's just the breakneck moment where Vitaly sees that Gunnar gets saved by his teammate. They do the simultaneous initiation. Really, Mu can only save so many people. After he uses the press the attack on someone else, of course he can't cast it on himself, so he gets jumped instead. And Gardic with the breakneck ultimate, just at the really just the last second for his life. Little glimmer of hope, and they're going again, and it's gonna land again.
Ice Blast onto 2, Bushwhack there, Sharpshooter hit coming in. Mu really just starting to drop off massively at this point. Press the attack is still useful, but we haven't really seen them take advantage of the duel in recent times as they do try to push in onto Vitaly, but there's the BKB. DK is simply going to walk away.
Yep. Meanwhile, in Tiaras, farming towards the Satanic. It's just a combination of, I think, four Zoomers continuing to fall behind. And that was just such a perfect way to use their Aegis as well. Even though they weren't able to secure a Rax just yet, didn't get any buybacks either. So four Zoomers are definitely not out of it net worth wise. It's just there is 6K net worth between your Gyrocopter and your Luna. And that is where this matchup just feels terrible. You even see Envy, he's turning back for the Sanjin Yasha because he feels like he's too low HP. He feels like if he eats too many flax, he's not going to be able to stand up with this fight. And we all knew it was going to be a kiting game. It was going to be, if you can outlast Yaris's BKB, if you can outlast his damage, put him up in the air, it's going to be okay. But we're going to the situation where Husky loses his Storm Panda in the middle of the fight, the BKB gets popped, everyone has to disengage, and then all pressure is on Z-Freak to find some kind of curse for the disengage, because they cannot fight. They cannot use their ultimates right now on the four Zoomers side. Most of their abilities are liabilities at this point. Nobody can get Cold Embrace, nobody can get dueled. It's just sort of a compounding issue that Hokori are really pressing.
And Tiaras may not have the Aegis any longer, but he is sitting on a bottle DD rune, so I'm not sure if four Zoomers were able to actually scout that out just then, but this is not a situation that you want to push into. Wait for that DD to sort of wear off before you try to challenge that Gyrocopter, but the fight may still be coming. Gunnar doing his best to sort of push this out while staying safe. You see him using the X on himself, but now they're going to smoke up as 5. They want this fight. This feels so incredibly risky. Maybe they could jump for a quick kill onto a support here as Gardic is looking like the most obvious target, but they're actually going to shift their way over towards El Misho instead. As Moo able to get in for the duel. Can they actually win this one? Yes, they can. Okay. Plus 30 now for Moo, so he hasn't been able to really win those consistently, but this time around he's able to get the damage, and that's a pretty solid pickup. That takes El Misho out for 40 seconds. A hero Hokori technically can fight without, but they're not going to feel fully comfortable without the extra lockdown and that sharpshooter hit as well, so they're probably going to wait this one out just a little bit. Already down to 25 seconds on that timer. Roche not up for another minute, so they don't have to worry about any sort of immediate play for an objective. But, well, maybe they don't wait that long after all. They're going to smoke up. Tiaras has the Satanic, so they are good to go. They find themselves Envy.
The DK.
Nice BKB, though.
Slow reaction.
Oh, boy. If he gets picked off there, that's tier 2s. That's a potential high ground push. But, Hokori? This is an interesting one. They actually go for another smoke. Yeah.
Z-Freak is trying to pop it. He's playing a little bit risky, but it's going to end up working. And really, they can afford to do that one more time on four Zoomers. They can be happy with the support kill, like El Misho or Gardic, with their 5-man, because really, it does not feel fantastic. And they know about this smoke. They're going to wait out Hokori. They're just going to show in their lanes in a second here. But now, Moo cannot duel this Gyrocopter. There's no way. He has a Satanic now. He's not going to be dying. And I feel like Hokori, they're going to be patient. Really, if they can force four Zoomers to play in this bubble, force them to play on the high ground, the items are really going to slow down. Gunnar has a Halberd finished up, but just all of the item timings that we usually see, especially from this Luna, just aren't there in this game. Even Lunas that have bad games, usually we see them still hit the CS per minute mark, but Envy's just falling way far behind. But Vitaly,
big jump in onto the DK.
Big jump.
Do they have the damage?
Nice.
Not for the win, but they do for the kill. That's going to have to be enough for now, as Envy even getting the credit for that one. Ice Blast is going to clip him at the back end, but not really going to be enough to matter. For Zoomers, though, unfortunately, they get that pick off. They check Roshan. The timing's just not quite going to align for them. Still about a minute before Roche is back up. So that would have been a pretty big play for them. Of course, there is a buyback on that DK. Not that they necessarily know that, but they're trying to take control of the pit anyway. Gunnar is really far forward here, yeah. Able to get the torrent down onto Analog, but it looks like they're actually going to go in onto El Misho, trying to take that hoodwink out once again as they do find that kill. Now they want more. Tiaras actually going toe-to-toe with, toe-to-toe with Gunnar. BKB's been used. There's going to be the X into the Ghost Ship. So that does hold the Gyrocopter at bay, but without the BKB, I don't know if Gunnar really wants this fight any longer. Z-Freak, I don't know about that Arctic Burn, but it's not going to be on cooldown for too long. Gets a little bit of damage in and makes sure nobody's chasing after his buddies. So four Zoomers find a kill, back themselves up. Roshan coming up in about 20 seconds. We'll see, though, if they maintain their presence in the area. It looks like for now, everybody's really kind of backing away, while Hokori are the ones pushing forward. So this may not work out too well for them. But Tiaras, that's a very aggressive choice. Going into that north side jungle. Gets clipped by the torrent, though. But they don't really want the fight. Vitaly, nobody told him that. He just blinked forward, very nearly got off the Dragon Tail.
Yeah, and that's where, again, they get a pick off. They force four Zoomers back into the base. This rotation feels pretty natural for them at this point, and this is time for Eternal Envy to close the gap. Because they push in all of these ways on Hokori's side, they are giving him the opportunity to farm bottom, farm mid, and we do see that crit stick finally build up on the Luna along with the Ag Shard, but they need to go to the pit. This is their moment. This is their smoke where they need to find the target, but Moo's got to do it blind. He either needs to wait for Husky to go in there with the split, or they need to find the back. Nice.
Well, okay. They're in onto Gardic. That's going to be a quick and easy
No
kill.
buyback.
No buyback. Do they continue going for Roshan? Right now, it looks like Tiaras does want to finish it off. It's so low, they can't afford to back out. They've got to try and go for it. Gunnar, though, popping the BKB, pushing his way in. Roshan gets taken down. Tiaras is going to get the Aegis, but the fight is going to be breaking out. Vitaly already low on HP. He activated his own BKB. Analog now in a bit of a rough spot as well, but they are backing themselves away. The Gyro, though, not going to be able to get out of it just yet. The X pulls him back in. The Torrent's going to lock him down. Moo trying to get in there, looking for the extra damage. Tiaras, though, not dead yet, so they have to pop that ult. Winter's Curse comes through. They do catch out too, but nobody dies. Eternal Envy, however, in there with the Eclipse, trying to take Tiaras down, dropping him low. They've gotten through him once, but can they get him a second time? The reinforcements are coming. Analog back into the fight. Tiaras doesn't have the Satanic, though, for about 8 more seconds, so he has to try and hold his ground, but he is rapidly dropping low. There's going to be the disarm out from the Halberd as well. Envy, though, over on the other side, drops a little bit low as well, but the press the attack kept him alive throughout. And Tiaras does get taken down. That Ice Blast will come through, but at this point, I don't think it's going to be enough. And the duel now comes in onto Analog. They've locked down the Ember. Can they finish him off in time? Not quite. Analog trying to jump away, but he didn't actually have a Remnant down, so there's nowhere to go. As Gunnar will finish him off, and now Hokori, they're kind of falling apart, but Elmisho and Vitaly onto the backline. They did catch out Envy, so that's going to take away a lot of that Roshan threat from the four Zoomers lineup, but they won't come away empty-handed as Gunnar picks up the triple kill, finishing off Elmisho. So the fight finally comes to a close. Hokori, I don't want to say blow it, but they definitely lose that fight. The Aegis gets ripped out of their hands. They still lose Tiaras and Analog, and it's really only that kill onto Envy at the end that prevents this from being a complete disaster.
And it's the strength of that Winter Wyvern where now these are the tools that they need. If they can kite him out, if Zephyr can finish off this Aghanim Scepter, that is the hero. That is the outrange game. That is the winner. And you saw there with the Gyrocopter on the low ground, the Winter Wyvern just completely outpaced him. He was immobile. He was unable to get on top of anyone, and Hokori cannot allow themselves to get kited in those sort of positions. As well as, I think, Gunnar stealing the cheese out from underneath Tiaras. If he doesn't get that cheese, not only can he not survive, I think, as long as he inevitably did, but also baits Hokori to committing way longer than they should have, and just making Tiaras pop his BKB that much sooner. If he doesn't have to pop his BKB to secure the Roche, I 100% think that four Zoomers just get run down after the fact. But because he doesn't have BKB, he doesn't have Satanic, he doesn't have Flak, and you don't have that sort of secondary control or the burst damage coming in from Gardic, you just lose the fight in a pretty convincing way. And now we're getting to that point where Daedalus is on board for Luna. Still quite a bit away, but this is time that Hokori aren't going to feel as comfortable pushing up because they don't have that Aegis in the hands. Breaching that high ground, breaching that triangle area is now going to be sort of a calculated risk where they need to smoke in there. They can't afford to give four Zoomers that much of an advantage. But now you also have the Aghanim Scepter 400 gold away for the Winter Wyvern. There is a lot coming up for Zoomers in the pipeline. Full AC on Kunkka as well. They're definitely taking this game in a good direction.
Yeah, the timing's all starting to sort of align for that four Zoomers roster, whereas Hokori, well, Vitaly got his BKB, or excuse me, his Aghanim Scepter a little while back, so he has the Black Dragon form. Your Ember is finishing, or finished off, really. Takaya and Sanj working now towards an Aghanim Scepter, so you do have some items coming in on both sides. Tiaras is sort of building himself up here as well, but this is what we were talking about in the draft. When this game starts to go late, this is where the Luna is really going to be kind of the end-all be-all. For a long time, Hokori were sort of pushing that inevitability further and further away, but it's still here. Envy is still going to be a monster once that Daedalus is finished off. The damage output is going to be something that Hokori are, I'm not going to say incapable of dealing with, but they're going to be hard-pressed to deal with both the Luna and the lockdown potentially coming out from the other heroes, including the Wyvern, who now has finished off the Ag. Z-Freak is, at this point, really just kind of ready to go.
Yeah, and you have the night vision talent, you have the 50 damage. You would love to get that Arctic burn slow. And again, Gyro or Winter Wyvern Luna, it's one of those combos that we saw so many teams move it to that mid position for this exact reason where again, if you can outrange the gyrocopter, you win. You don't allow him to do any damage. You kite out his satanic. That is the weakness in Hikori's lineup that they need to poke and prod and open. And this is where you're going to see the matchup. It starts to matter less as this net worth gap closes and closes, and he's been able to maintain at least a 6K net worth difference between himself and Eternal Envy's Luna. But again, it's not going to end up mattering. You once you have this Daedalus on Eternal Envy, all of your damage comes from your Lucent Beam. It doesn't matter if you can't right click anyone because everything is about the beam.
And we had a bit of a pause there as Vitali was not in the server. Did drop out for a moment, but he is quickly reconnecting just in time too, because Hokori, they're looking for the fight. Full 5-man smoke here. So honestly, this is potentially the fight. This fight could really determine the way that the next 5 to 10 minutes looks. Whichever team takes this engagement is definitively going to be the one in charge. But if you're Hokori, have they scouted out some of these items? Do they know that Z-Freak is sitting on that Aghanim Scepter? Do they know about just how much damage Envy's working with? If they push into the fight and they don't sort of account for that Wyvern's whereabouts almost immediately, it could get pretty ugly for them. So we'll see just how much scouting they can do beforehand. It looks like Vitali did get back in, but we're not quite ready to resume. So may still be dealing with some high ping, a little bit of lag, but he's at least back in the server. That's got to count for something, and we'll see how this plays out. But this could very well be a turning point, if not the turning point of the game, if Four Zoomers can take the win.
And something that sort of ceased after that Roche, or even just a little bit before the Roche, whenever the supports were getting picked off, even though it was very slight, Hikori really sort of took a step back. Vitali felt less comfortable making those easy pick-off plays. Those three were really the pace setters for Hikori for a very long time. And then Analog kind of coming in at the last second to supply a little bit more damage for core kills. But Hikori have not made a play in a very long time. So I hope after this smoke, they do finally decide to get a little bit more aggressive because, again, now that we are sort of in the situation, again, 40 to 45 minute mark, they've got 11, 15 seconds where they can have a very successful team fight. And then after that, you are playing into the hands of Four Zoomers. You are playing towards the fact that they are going to try to kite you. They are going to play around the edge. Really, the only go-in they have still is that duel, but if they can wait as long as possible, I feel like for Zoomers, again, you're getting to that situation where the game is getting very difficult for Hokori, and it's on the horizon. Husky's got the Aeon Disc queued up, said if he gets Aeon Disc, they're going to win, and we're almost at that point, and that's where Hokori, they need to be scared, because those Brewlings, he's going to be level 18 soon, he's going to put you in the air, he's going to try and kite you, and that's where I think these team fights are going to get so complicated that Hokori might not be able to put up with it. As well as Analog, he's got this Aghanim Scepter, he's gone for the magic damage build, but again, playing into the Brewmaster, you can just purge off the Flame Guard. You can really mitigate a lot of damage coming from that Ember Spirit, where I think a lot is coming from this DK and this Gyrocopter still, where Four Zoomers, those are the heroes that Four Zoomers are geared against. I think Analog needs to put up a little bit more, and that's where this refresher might be the difference maker. But again, their smoke whiffed after the pause. They weren't able to get anything, and Daedalus is online for Eternal Envy.
And now we're getting into that next tier of sort of neutrals coming into play as well. So, well, you never know. I mean, Tier 4 is maybe not quite on the level of Tier 5 in terms of we have found this item and now the game is different, but depending on what they can find, it could have a rather sizable impact. Speaking of impacts, Envy does have the Daedalus online, so the damage output is there. He is ready to go, and here comes the smoke out from Four Zoomers, making their way across the map. Who can they run into? Tiaras and Vitali, both hanging out nearby. Well, okay, that's a BKB used. Gunner kind of fat fingers that one, but they're still in on the Vitali. They're going to hit him up with the duel. Can they actually keep the DK alive? At this point, it's not going to happen. Vitali's already dead. Tiaras now actually going to get caught by the X. He does have the BKB. He will pop it, but the Winter's Curse is still there to keep him locked down. Hokori, I don't think they can afford to really leave him all by himself here, but Tiaras is actually just going to TP out while he can. So he will take advantage of that opening, gets himself away. Gardic, though, getting himself picked off sort of over on the other side of that fight, further to the north, so they were able to finish him off. They're getting it onto Omisho as well, or at least attempting to, but the Hoodwink is going to be able to get away. So Amisha will TP out, but that's still 2 kills for the 4 Zoomers side. Once again, Moo, he's just going in, throwing caution to the wind, looking for the duel, and this time they're able to set it up. And with Vitali gone, so much of that front line just immediately gets sapped away. Hokori could sort of throw TRS out there on the front line, but they would prefer not to have to if there's no one there to soak up the damage. So once Vitali's out, there's really not a whole lot for Hokori to do, as they're now sort of stuck in a defensive mindset.
And this is where we get into the game where for Zoomers, if Zmu is able to get those initiations, Hokori don't have safe. They don't have the defensive heroes. They don't have the tools to pull people out. And that's where Hokori, they need to find these initiations. They need to find these jumps. I think that 4 Zoomers are doing a really good job of baiting them to their side of the map or catching them in sort of the little areas where you're not going to have vision, you're not going to be able to play with full confidence. And Vitali just kind of uncharacteristically getting caught, but all of this is definitely adding up. It's starting to matter more and more because farm is disappearing across the map. TRS was able to finish up another item. He's got that MKB now. I really wish he went for the Daedalus instead though, because there's no butterfly being built up by Envy. So really all the evasion is just him trying to kill out that Kunkka. But again, it feels a little bit bad where I don't think Hokori like where they are in this game anymore. We see them smoke up, I think, or no, that's just the ninja gear on Vitali, but it feels like it's so difficult for them to make a play that the game might just start to centralize around Roshan again, but that's for Zoomer's ballpark. Even though Hokori have the Radiant advantage, if they can keep this bottom lane pushed in, Analog has to deal with it pretty much every single time. If they keep this outpost, Hokori need to dislodge 4 Zoomers from this top side of the map with some kind of play. Otherwise, 4 Zoomers can definitely put up a fight for this Roche.
Yeah, and you gotta sort of simultaneously put together something that is going to be big enough to actually force the response from 4 Zoomers, but won't put, either your own heroes at direct risk of getting picked off or leave you too weak back on the original front line if 4 Zoomers instead just look to push forward. So you're sort of walking a bit of a tightrope there. You need something that is strong enough to act as the bait, but won't get picked off and can easily sort of make the jump back. That's why, as you mentioned, Analog really does seem like the best candidate for that. He's able to jump back to that Remnant if his team needs him and maybe force 4 Zoomers to respond. The problem is, if you're 4 Zoomers, you are not going to take that bait. You are not going to bite and send multiple heroes to another lane unless you're sure that it's something that your opponents have actually committed for. Speaking of committing, though, Vitali, he's into the fight, and now the Ember actually goes onto the back lane. He's going to look to take down the Wyvern as quickly as possible. Z-Freak, though, he's just not going down. He's able to get away, and now Moo blinks forward for the duel. They've caught the Ember. Can they bring him down? They need a little bit more damage. Analog, though, not dead yet, but the Winter's Curse will come through. Ember still trying to keep himself alive. He's not going down just yet. He's actually looking to push into the fight, but that may not have been the best of ideas. Analog taken down. Gardic dead as well. Both heroes, though, immediately buying back, but the Eclipse is now tearing through them as Envy is trying to do the damage, but TR's, he's just winning this fight. He hasn't even popped the Satanic at this point, so he is just going to tear his way through everything. Envy gets taken down. Tiaras picks up the triple kill, and 4 Zoomers get kind of baited into that one. They thought, hey, we caught Vitali again. We've got him by himself. Let's pick him off like we did last time, but doesn't really pay off for them. Of course, it is a little bit costly for Hokori with 2 buybacks being committed, including the all-important one onto Analog, but they win the fight. They have control of the pit. They're not pushing for it yet, as it's still about 20 seconds away from the respawn, but that was the fight that Hokori needed, and 4 Zoomers, just when I was saying they weren't really going to get baited into the trap, they kind of do exactly that.
Yeah, and really kind of poorly executed from 4 Zoomers. You never want to see this gyrocopter standing on top of pretty much all 3 of your cores. I'm kind of considering the Wyvern a core at this point, but the gyrocopter is able to get on top of you. If he's ever able to get on top of you, you are in the meat grinder. Your lineup is based around kiting him. It's based about being non-committal. And sure, you get the kill on Analog. You're able to sort of force out his buyback, but now you have to do it again. They cannot allow TRs to stand on top of their cores anymore. They need to kite him out. He didn't, like you said, didn't have to use the Satanic. His BKB was really just to dodge a Torrent at that point. You never want to see Envy running on top of the gyrocopter. You just can't allow that to happen. And now they're going to get Roach for free. Even though they're down 2 buybacks, they can do it with full confidence because, again, Envy just sort of died because he's still waiting for farm. He's still sort of playing behind the 8 ball, I want to say. And now Ag's dropped. There is going to be an Ag synth. I wonder if he's going to give it to anyone. Probably over to, yeah, El Misho gets it, so now the Boomerang's online. and it's more burst damage. I just really think Four Zoomers can't afford to execute that poorly. It's really surprising because up until that point, everything that they've been gearing themselves for has been around kiting the gyro. That's why they had that one really substantial team fight that really set them on the right path. But they throw it away right before Roche respawns. It just feels like sort of a throw.
Yeah, and I mean, we're trying not to harp on it too much, but at this point, that is a potentially game-changing maneuver. You had one job if you're Four Zoomers. That is keep Tiaras the hell away from your cores and your Luna in particular, and they just don't. I mean, and to a certain extent, it's not even necessarily that Hokori outplay them and trick them into being in the wrong position. It's just Four Zoomers kind of fall apart there. So they're going to have an opportunity, obviously, to put together a better fight moving forward, but now, you said it, sort of playing behind the 8 ball. They are at the mercy of their opponents, 15k down in the net worth department, and map control is becoming an issue as well. All of those outer towers have been taken, so Hokori are looking at high ground pushes the rest of the way through, and their heroes are starting to work towards those level 25s. In fact, they actually already have it up on both the gyrocopter and the Ember. So the homing missiles with the multiple charges, I do believe the Ember took the Sleight of Fist upgrade as well. Yes, he did, so that's a lot of just sort of casual damage that they can throw your way that you're not necessarily going to be able to just shrug off.
And we're getting to the point where, as well, we get the broken neutral item up on Tiaras, where now he is a 6-slot pure gyrocopter. He doesn't need boots. He's sitting at 451 move speed. This item's got to go. Spider Legs is just way too much. And while Eternal Envy, he's got a Minotaur Horn, he's got the Scotty finally. That's the item that they really would have loved to kite out this gyrocopter. It's going to make a Satanic feel a lot worse. But again, they cannot afford to fight him straight on top of each other. The Luna is not at that point yet. We still see the net worth lead, the gap between Envy and Tiaras. It's just unable. Luna cannot fight next to a gyrocopter, and she doesn't have to. That's the sort of thing that's killing me, is there's no situation in which Envy really should be sitting there right-clicking the gyrocopter unless Envy's got a Satanic or he's got 4 heroes dead on the Hokori side, because he's playing versus an Ancient Apparition. He's playing in a very difficult Luna game, but it still feels like he's putting himself out there, and you see all these heroes making a rotation bot just to try and get their waves going in their favor. This is where Gunner's been playing a lot, and I like it, but if he gets caught here, gonna get caught in the cart. Okay,
Nice
BKB
BKB preemptively coming out, but yeah, it's like the old what was it? The old story. The man goes to the doctor, says, "Doc, it hurts when I do this." Doctor says, "Then don't do that." Right? The Luna can't go 1v1 versus the gyro. The answer is, well, then don't try to. Don't get that close to him in the first place. But as we saw in that last fight, apparently it's much easier said than done. So we'll see what Four Zoomers can do, but they've got to keep that gyrocopter at arm's length. Husky, though, with the Aghanim Scepter purchase, going to be able to help out on that at least a little bit here with the double primal split charge. Going to give him a lot more in the way of utility. Maybe you can force out an early sort of BKB from the gyrocopter, and at that point, Tiaras is not going to be feeling quite as confident pushing forward through the second half of the engagement. So every little thing that Four Zoomers can do here, they need utility from pretty much everyone else, while the Luna can sort of dish out that damage. But still a rough situation for them. They're very much having to play defensively, waiting for their moment. 70 seconds left on the Aegis, though, so that moment could be coming relatively quickly. But we'll see if they can actually recognize when that happens. They would need a vision on Tiaras unless they perfectly timed the Aegis counter, which, I mean, wouldn't put that past them, but they need to play so cautiously right now. One misstep, and they are pretty much doomed. We saw in that bottom lane just a moment or two ago, if it weren't for Gunner popping the BKB that little bit earlier, he could have been caught out there, and then Hokori would have their path in, as Analog's going to go for it again. But again, BKB will come out. Gunner gets away, but further up the lane, yeah, they're jumping in onto Husky. They're going to try and lock him down. Do they have the damage? Yes, they do. They get Husky. They get Z-Freak as well. And neither of those supports has buyback.
Yeah, and it just feels like they have to make this play. I don't think they need to follow Gunner out, though. I understand why Z-Freak was doing it. He wanted to be the one that sort of stays after the fact. They see a hero TP out. They don't think anyone else is down there playing with him. But now you've sort of blown open the situation. The tidal wave is up. Gunner can be very obnoxious.
Who's got the duel? With the Aegis!
Yep.
They timed it perfectly. Moo is a man on a mission. He takes down one. They're going to look for Vitaly as well, but it looks like he's going to be able to get himself out of here. But that That's
Perfect.
big. You could not have gotten that timing. That was a half a second at the most between the jump in and the actual Aegis expiring. So, I mean, Moo, we were sort of maybe discounting him a little bit in this game, talked about how his impact had pretty sizably dropped off, but perfect timing, perfect duel. They find the kill, and it's not going to get them right back into the game just yet, but Moo gets a little bit more damage. You stop that push onto your high ground. Tier 3 tower was taken, but the racks are still standing, which means overall, control of the map not in your favor, but you're not inherently going to get pushed down in that bottom lane, which is going to be massive for them, considering the fact that they've got someone like Gunnar, who can just come in and clear out waves. So, a step in the right direction for 4-Zoomers. They're going to need a hell of a lot more, but that one looked pretty damn good for them, and now if you're Hokori, got to approach this next fight with no Aegis.
Yeah, no, Misha's playing a dangerous game bottom, but it was such a good play because it was very, very quiet. They really didn't show how aggressive they were going to get. It was like, oh, we're going to push you around with the tidal wave. We'll bring you a little bit closer, and then just Moo with really razor-sharp instincts, just getting him right on the cusp. Because, of course, I'm certain that Hokori timed it as well, but maybe just not thinking that they would have been that capable with two supports dead. Maybe thinking that 4-Zoomers would have rather played a much slower game, but it was just really well measured, really well played. But again, they couldn't get anything off of it aside from the little bit of map control bottom. They got the outpost back, so they will get a little bit more XP. But oh, analog.
Oh boy. Moo.
Whoa,
Can you
there's
lock
no
him?
way.
Oh.
Oh boy.
And Analog's going to throw the pause out there, so that may have been the rare instance of lag in his favor. I think the maybe slight sort of delay messed with the timing that Moo had been expecting, so Analog's able to get himself out, but now he actually has to deal with the lag issue. It may have kept him alive, but you still don't want to have to play with it. But Moo, all of a sudden, well, maybe not all of a sudden, but pretty recently, he's starting to feel so much more aggressive, more confident. He knows now his teammates have the damage at this point. This is no longer a situation where his duel is just sort of a Hail Mary play. Now he knows if I initiate, if I drop the duel down, I've got Eternal Envy behind me hitting like a damn truck. So they're going to be looking for more and more of those plays. Analog's lucky he got away from it that time, but no guarantees that they can stay safe on everyone else.
And that's where you kind of have to think maybe if Moo just went for the immediate Blade Mail duel out of the Trickster Cloak as opposed to getting the press the attack off, it definitely felt close. It felt like something very strange was going on that rune, but everything is going to reset. But now, for Zoomers, they need to keep the same level of play up. We didn't get to see Husky use either of his ultimates. Again, both supports were dead when they made that amazing jump onto TRS. We didn't even get to see them have an effect on the game. But Z-Freak, he just walked under a ward.
Yeah, they jump
Shot.
forward. Oh my god, Sharpshooter is going to be there. Husky did get off the Primal Split at least, so he's going to try and make a break for it, and they can't really lock down that Earth Panda, so he should be getting away. But that is one of your charges using Analog. Okay. Further forward onto Gunner. Press the attack, removes it. But Tiaras wants into the fight. Without the BKB, though, he does get stunned up. And now Vitali blinking in, looking for Envy. But that's going to be the Horn being activated. So they're not going to be able to catch out anyone just yet. And that tidal wave even sort of pushing Vitali further away. So what an adventure 4-Zoomers go on there, trying to pull everybody back. They lose the Wyvern, but that is one of the heroes who has buyback available. So they could afford to sort of lose Z-Freak in that scenario. And just got to be glad that they don't really lose anyone else. Vitali, though, still prowling around in the north side jungle, so I don't know if they're really looking to push all the way up to the high ground, but they're at least keeping the lanes pushed in against their opponents right now.
Yeah, and really, it's just the kind of 4-Zoomers bubble where if somebody walks into their bubble, they can make a play on them very fast with Moo, but they don't want to start something that they can't finish. Because again, Hokori, if you're able to get that sharpshooter, if you're able to get that ice blast on those key targets, you still have to disengage, you still have to run, and you see Envy, even though he's playing versus AA, you need the Satanic, you need to play around the fact that maybe you're not going to be the target that's getting hit up by it, just because, again, you can't really stand next to this gyrocopter, and TR's a little bit confused about what he wants to go next. He's got the Agi Blink up right now, not a bad option, but we'll have to see what he inevitably goes for. There isn't a Lincoln's built up on anyone yet. You see Analog's going for it in his own itemization, and that would feel fantastic as well. But like most things, we're going to see everybody focus around this pit and getting picks near the pit, getting kills near the pit, and Analog on the low ground.
Oh god,
Oh,
there's
Moo.
oh man, Moo! Yeah, he's got to go. He's trying to get himself away. The BKB, though, will come out now as his TP was canceled. But Hokori, they want into the fight. Vitaly, though, he can't go anywhere. He's getting just sort of kited up. He is so damn slow when the Scotty hits him, so Analog has to be the one pushing forward. They will try to do so. They get in onto Move, very low in HP there on that Legion Commander. Can they finish things off? Yes, they can. Able to get down the Searing Chains for the root. So, Mu is taken down. Does have a buyback available. Meanwhile, back in the middle lane, Mu buying back. Vitaly, though, dropping low in that Dragon form. But there's going to be the call down into, well, the Winter's Curse. So, Vitaly, he's not dead just yet, but he is sort of trapped up in the middle of this, but he is really going to make them work for it. They do finally bring him down, and all of a sudden, Tiaras, he's alone. He didn't get the Satanic. Just never really popped it there, as he will be taken down. The duel now from Mu, that buyback already paying off. As they're in onto Analog, they bring him down, and now if you're Hokori, it is time to run.
And it happened. It finally happened. He had to sort of use his BKB so he wouldn't immediately kill off Vitaly. Vitaly still goes down after the fact, but you are trapped. The ship, the Ghost Fleet, is hitting you over and over again, as well as getting kited by all of the members of Four Zoomers. You get put up into the air, you kill some of the surrounding members of Hokori, you save Tiaras for last. This is their lineup. This is exactly what they wanted to do. This is what Four Zoomers were banking on in their heroes, in their draft, in their playstyle, and it's finally coming to fruition. It's finally working, and that was a terrible beginning to that fight where it felt like everyone was full mode retreat. You do end up getting the buyback out from the Legion Commander, but you lose nothing in return. Now Tiaras and Analog would have to buy back to contest this Roche, something that I don't think they can afford to do, so maybe Almisho goes for some sort of steal play, but this is just kind of it. This is going to be an Aegis now in the hands of Four Zoomers, and it's going to make their fight even easier to execute. The margin for error is going to expand because now you have an Aegis on this Luna. Are they buying back? Tiaras doesn't want to give it to him.
Went into the pit as well. Analog's going to buy back too. Elmisho, meanwhile, no, he jumped in onto Z-Freak, actually hit him up there. Oh my god. Hit him up there with the E-Blade. That gets the Sharpshooter in for the kill, but Envy is still going to be able to take the Aegis. So they've got that in their hands. The problem is, here comes the damage. They are dropping low on everybody but Mu.
They can't let
with
anyone
that level
leave. 25.
He was able to get the press the attack in the AoE. Husky, though, still going to get hit up by the missiles. He is dropping low. Can they finish him off in time?
Husky?
No, they can't. He's still going to get the ult off, and now they're turning around. No one kills Husky. He drops the ult. Envy picks up the double. Both of those cores dying back, as you mentioned, and now Vitaly, he's alone. There's no one to help him. That might just be game.
I'm clicked on the Brewmaster. I was clicked on him before. It was 17 HP. Husky gets it off. They don't have vision. They kite away from Gardic. Gardic has his ultimate still. He didn't think he needed to use the burst. I mean, maybe you kill Husky, no. Okay, you clip him there, but this is just the game. They're going to have Glyph, but I think this is just it.
How?
Okay, they got Husky.
How? Husky was dead to rights. He's the last man in the retreat with 17 HP. Someone just needed to not even breathe on him, not even do anything, just think about killing him, and he would have gone down. Instead, he gets off the ult, he's able to put that last bit of lockdown in place. The rest of Four Zoomers, recognizing the opportunity, instantly double back into the fight, and Hokori, as you said, I don't think they can do this. Almisho's going to give it a good go here, but there's just not enough in the tank. The duel comes in to lock him down, and
that's it. It's
over.
The 50-minute pickup, the 50-minute Glimmer Cape picked up by Z-Freak, actually ended up, I think, winning them the game here. I think it's also a little bit wild for Hokori to try and capitalize on that slight timing they had in the pit. It did feel like Four Zoomers had it. They could have bought back so much sooner, and we would have seen a much different game, but I think that's why you don't see the GGs until the Ancient explodes here, because that just ended so abruptly. I can't imagine that Hokori are feeling happy with themselves right now. That is a wild end of this game.
They have got to be, in a word, pissed with the way that goes down. And to be honest, pissed with themselves more than anything that their opponents did. They should have had that game. If you take down Husky, there's not really a whole lot left. Four Zoomers are still on the retreat, but just the tiniest of mistakes. But that's what happens. We get 50, 55 minutes in. The smallest mistake gets magnified to a frankly ridiculous degree there. Husky survives on 17 HP, and Four Zoomers turn the fight that wins them the game.
Oh, and pardon my French, it was a 54-minute Glimmer Cape. It just got out to the Winter Wyvern whenever that fight broke out. So they didn't have vision for Husky. He survives. He purges the Gyro Satanic. He purges the Flame Guard. I can't believe the skill coming out from Four Zoomers at the end there. And Of course, at the end of the day, they did do what their lineup was meant to do. The bodies that were laid before, the deaths, everything sort of built up to that moment. At the end of the day, they were able to finally execute their lineup, but still, that is a wild end to a very wild game because, again, Hokori, they felt like they were maybe playing off of Four Zoomer's mistakes, maybe playing to the only plays that they had for themselves, but ending the way it did, there's a reason why I don't think the G's were called there. That was, I think they couldn't even believe the game was over when it was over. I just can't believe they're happy with how anything happened in those last really just minute there. That last minute was so important for everyone in the game.
Just a mix of disbelief and disappointment, and maybe a little bit of anger there from Hokori as well. And I mean, I know exactly that feeling. I mean, we're watching it happen right in front of our eyes in real time, and I didn't even believe what had gone down there. We're just sort of assuming Husky's gonna die. I'm waiting to make the call that he's gone, and he just never dies. So Husky with the clutch play, Z-Freak with the clutch save to keep him alive, as you mentioned, with that glimmer, and Four Zoomers quite literally steal one away. Hokori, it sucks. That's really the best way that I can describe it, but that was game one of a 2-game series. You have to somehow pick yourself up off the floor, try and get back into the right mindset. Yes, that game slips through your fingers, but now don't let one mistake and one loss turn into two. Don't dwell on that too much. You got to get right back into it, and we'll see how they respond. But that is a soul-crushing loss at this point.
Yeah, I just hope it doesn't sort of cloud their judgment going into this game because, again, they played so fantastic. You take a look at the win probability, and you can already tell they were in the lead. They were in such a good position. It's just the kill on that Aegis on the racks was the first big one, and then before that, it was whenever they kited out that gyrocopter on the low ground. Every single time I feel like Hokori went to the pit, Four Zoomers had those small individual performances. Even all 3 times the Roshan was on the table, just those small little plays. Four Zoomers just played really well in those key important moments. Just fantastic.
Fantastic stuff from them. And now the question is, can they repeat that performance? For their sakes, hopefully without needing the comeback this time around, but we'll see what Game 2 has in store. After a wild Game 1, very much excited to see how this one plays out. So we're going to be stepping away for just a moment, take a bit of a break. When we return, it'll be Game 2 between Hokori and Four Zoomers. So stick around. We'll be bringing that one your way in just a few minutes.